Daniel Reed's boots made no sound on the metal floor of Station Ethan. Around him, creatures from 100 different worlds moved through the corridors. Some had scales that shimmered like oil on water. Others walked on 6 legs or floated without touching the ground at all. A few looked almost human, but their eyes were wrong. Too many pupils, colors that shouldn't exist. He was one of 3 humans accepted into the Galactic Military Academy this year. The letter had arrived 6 months ago, and his family had celebrated for a week. Now, standing in the assembly hall with 200 other recruits, Daniel felt very small. Drillmaster Quinn entered the hall, and every conversation died. The Saurid moved like a predator, 6 limbs carrying his massive frame with perfect balance. Black scales covered his body, each one catching the light like polished stone. His eyes, yellow with vertical slits, swept across the gathered recruits. When his gaze passed over Daniel, something cold settled in the human stomach. "You are here because your worlds believe you have potential." Quinn's voice echoed through the hall. "I am here to prove them wrong. Most of you will fail. Some of you will die. The galaxy needs warriors, not children playing at war." The physical assessment began immediately. No time to settle in, no time to prepare. Daniel watched as a granite warrior lifted weights that would crush a vehicle. An insectoid named Tala moved through an obstacle course so fast she was barely visible. A felinoid completed the climbing wall in seconds, claws finding holds that Daniel couldn't even see. Then it was his turn. The weights felt impossibly heavy. Daniel managed 3 lifts before his arms shook too much to continue. The granite warrior beside him was on his 15th, barely straining. The obstacle course was worse. Walls too high, gaps too wide, bars too far apart. Everything designed for bodies stronger, faster, more durable than human. Daniel finished last, his hands bleeding, his breath coming in ragged gasps. Quinn stood at the finish line, watching him with those yellow eyes. "Prey animal," the Drillmaster said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Soft skin, weak muscles, fragile bones. Tell me, human, what made you think you belonged here?" Laughter rippled through the other recruits. Not cruel laughter exactly, more like confusion, as if they genuinely couldn't understand why something so weak would try to compete. Daniel straightened, despite the pain in his ribs. "I passed the entrance exam, sir." "Academic scores mean nothing when your body betrays you." Quinn circled him slowly. "How long do you think you'll last?" "A week, 3 days." He looked at the other instructors. "I wager he quits before the first rest cycle." That night in the barracks, Daniel lay on his bunk and stared at the ceiling. His roommate, another human named Rowan, was already asleep. Or pretending to be. Around them, the sounds of alien sleep filled the darkness. Clicking, humming, something that sounded like wind through caves. The next day was worse. Quinn seemed to have decided that Daniel was a problem to be solved through escalation. Combat training paired him against a felinoid twice his size. The creature pulled its strikes and Daniel still ended up in medical. Hand-to-hand combat revealed that human reach and human strength meant nothing against species that evolved fighting for survival on deathworlds. "Again," Quinn ordered. After Daniel hit the mat for the 10th time, Daniel got up. His vision swam. His jaw throbbed where the felinoid's backhand had connected. Again, he got up. "Your species is weak. Why do you persist?" Daniel didn't answer. He raised his hands and tried once more. The felinoid looked almost apologetic as it swept his legs and sent him crashing down again. A week passed. 2. The other recruits stopped laughing. Some began to look at Daniel with something like pity, others with confusion. 3 alien recruits had already quit, unable to handle the pressure. But the human kept showing up, kept trying, kept failing. During a survival exercise in the Deathworld simulation, Daniel barely scraped through. 2 alien recruits died when they misjudged the gravity and fell into a ravine. Daniel survived by being too slow to make the same mistake, by being too weak to attempt the dangerous shortcuts. Quinn's mockery became a daily ritual. The prey animal returns. "Did you get lost following the scent of fear?" But something had changed in the Drillmaster's voice, a note of uncertainty. During recovery periods, the medical staff noticed that Daniel healed faster than expected. Not superhuman, just efficient. His body seemed to understand that damage was temporary, that pain was information, not a stop sign. Rowan finally spoke to him one night. "There are stories about this place, about levels below the academy. They call it the pit. What's down there?" Failures get sent there. But that's not the worst part. Rowan's voice dropped. There's something down there. A creature. They call it the Devourer. Every 50 years they send their best warrior to fight it. Tradition, honor, that sort of thing. And no one's ever won. 300 years. 12 warriors. All dead. Daniel didn't sleep well that night. The stamina test came in the 3rd week. A simple exercise. Run until you drop. Most species hit their limit within an hour. The granite warriors could go longer by entering a state of semi-dormancy while moving. Tala, with her 3 hearts, managed nearly 2 hours. Daniel was still running at hour 3. Quinn stood beside the track, watching. Other instructors had gathered. The human's form was terrible. His breathing was ragged. Sweat poured off him in quantities that seemed medically dangerous. But he didn't stop. Hour 4. Tala watched from the sidelines, her mandibles clicking in disbelief. Hour 5. The granite warrior who had mocked him on the first day stood silent, stone face unreadable. Quinn finally called halt. Daniel collapsed immediately, unable to stand. Medical drones swarmed him, checking vitals, administering fluids. Why? Quinn demanded. Your body was shutting down. Why didn't you stop? Daniel looked up at him, eyes barely focused. Because you didn't order me to, sir. Something changed in Quinn's expression. Not respect, not yet, but the first crack in his certainty. That night, alarms screamed through Station Ethan. Red lights flooded the corridors. Daniel jerked awake, heart pounding. Rowan's face was pale. Containment breach. The pit. The Devourer was loose. Chaos swallowed Station Ethan whole. Recruits poured into the corridors. Some still in sleep clothing, others grabbing weapons they barely knew how to use. Daniel pulled on his boots while emergency lights painted everything in shades of blood. Through the walls he could hear something that made his spine turn to ice. Screaming. Metal tearing. The sound of something massive moving through spaces too small to contain it. Quinn's voice cut through the panic over the communication system. All recruits to evacuation shuttles. This is not a drill. Move now. The hallways became a crush of bodies. Daniel found himself swept along in a current of scales and fur, and things that had no name in human language. A felinoid recruit stumbled, and Daniel grabbed her arm, keeping her from being trampled. She stared at him with wide eyes, nodded once, and disappeared into the crowd. Rowan grabbed Daniel's shoulder. We need to go now, but Daniel had stopped moving. Through a viewport window he could see Section 7. Emergency doors were sealed, and behind the reinforced glass, faces pressed against the barrier. Civilians, maintenance workers and their families who lived on the station. 6 of them, maybe 7, small ones, children. They're trapped, Daniel said, not our problem. We're recruits, not soldiers. Daniel was already moving the other direction, against the flow of evacuees. Rowan cursed and followed. Section 7's emergency doors had been damaged in the breach. The locking mechanism sparked and hissed, half open, half closed. Not enough for the civilians to escape, but enough for Daniel to wedge his body into the gap. He pushed. The metal didn't move. He pushed harder, muscles screaming, the sharp edges cutting into his shoulders. The door shifted. An inch, 2 inches. Rowan added his weight. Together they forced the gap wider. The civilians scrambled through. A granite child barely knee-high, a saurid female clutching an infant. Others moving fast, eyes wild with terror. Go! Daniel shouted. Follow the evacuation route. They ran. Daniel turned to follow, and then the ceiling above them exploded. The Devourer dropped into the corridor like a nightmare taking physical form. 15 feet of muscle and fury, covered in plates of organic armor that looked grown rather than made. Too many limbs. Too many joints bending in directions that hurt to see. Its head was mostly mouth filled with teeth like broken glass. It saw the fleeing civilians. Saw prey, Daniel didn't think. He grabbed a piece of fallen debris, a metal support beam, and swung it at the creature's head. The impact rang through his arms, nearly breaking his grip. The Devourer turned its attention to him. Time became strange. The creature moved, and Daniel dove. Claws tore through the space where he'd been standing. He rolled, came up, swung again. This time the beam connected with one of the thing's limbs. The Devourer shrieked, a sound that made Daniel's ears bleed. Then it hit him. The world spun. Daniel felt himself flying, weightless for a moment, before crashing through a wall into the room beyond. Everything hurt, everything. His ribs were broken. He could feel them grinding together when he tried to breathe. His left arm hung at an angle that was definitely wrong. The Devourer pushed through the wall, widening the gap, coming for him. Daniel stood up. He didn't know how. His body screamed that it was impossible, that he should stay down, should surrender, should let the darkness take him. But his legs were moving. His good hand found another piece of debris. A pipe this time, smaller, easier to swing one-handed. The creature paused. Something in its alien eyes might have been confusion. Things it hit stayed down. That was the natural order. That was how prey worked. Daniel swung the pipe. The Devourer caught it in one massive claw, ripped it from his grip, and threw it away. Then it reached for him, almost casual, the way someone might reach for a meal. Footsteps behind him. Heavy. Fast. Quinn burst into the room with 6 armed soldiers. Energy weapons lit the space with blue fire. The Devourer recoiled, roaring, and retreated back through the hole it had made. The soldiers moved to pursue, but Quinn stopped them. He stared at Daniel. At the broken human, standing when he should be dead. At the blood and the wrong angles and the absolute refusal to fall down. "You disobeyed orders," Quinn said quietly. "Civilians were trapped." "Sir, you're not trained for combat." "No." "Sir, you should be dead." Daniel swayed on his feet. "Probably, sir." Quinn caught him as he fell. The Drillmaster's scales were cool against Daniel's skin. Medical drones swarmed in, but Quinn didn't let go until they forced him to. In medical, wrapped in regeneration gel that hurt worse than the injuries themselves, Daniel listened to the reports. The Devourer had retreated into the maintenance levels. 47 confirmed dead. Hundreds injured. The civilians from Section 7 all survived. Someone had leaked that a human recruit saved them. Quinn visited once, stood by the medical pod saying nothing. His yellow eyes studied Daniel like a puzzle that refused to be solved. "My species evolved as prey," Daniel said, his voice distorted by the gel. "Did you know that? On Earth, things hunted us. Big things, fast things, things with claws and teeth that made your Devourer look friendly. You survived by hiding," Quinn said. "It wasn't a question. We survived by being too stubborn to die. We couldn't outrun the predators, so we followed them until they collapsed. We couldn't outfight them, so we made weapons. We couldn't outlast them in a sprint, so we chased them for days. We're not stronger. We're not faster. We're just too stupid to quit when we should." Quinn was quiet for a long moment. "The Devourer must be eliminated. It will reach life support eventually. Kill everyone on the station. You're hunting it." "Yes." Daniel tried to sit up. The medical pod beeped angry warnings. "I'm coming with you. You're injured. I heal fast. You have broken bones. They'll hold." Quinn's expression was unreadable. "You want to hunt the creature that nearly killed you." "It hurt my people," Daniel said simply. "The civilians, you, Rowan, everyone here. That makes them mine, and nobody hurts mine." Something changed in Quinn's eyes. Not respect, not yet, but recognition. The acknowledgement that he was looking at something he'd never truly understood before. 48 hours, Quinn said. "You have 48 hours to heal. Then we hunt." He left. Daniel sank back into the gel, every part of him screaming. 48 hours. He'd make it work. He had to. The Devourer was still out there, and it had made a mistake. It had made this personal. 47 hours later, Daniel walked out of medical against the protests of 3 different doctors. His ribs were still healing, held together by advanced alien technology and sheer determination. His left arm responded slowly, nerves reconnecting, but it moved. That was enough. The hunting party gathered in the armory. Quinn had assembled 12 warriors, the best the station could spare while maintaining evacuation procedures. Daniel recognized some of them. 2 granite warriors, their stone bodies nearly impervious to damage. Tala, the insectoid whose speed had humiliated him during training. A felinoid named Bray whose claws could tear through steel. Others whose names he didn't know, whose species he'd never seen before. They all stared when he entered. "The prey animal wants to hunt," one of the granite warriors rumbled. "This is a mistake, Drillmaster." Quinn didn't respond. He handed Daniel a weapon. Not an energy rifle like the others carried. A simple plasma blade, close-range, brutal. The kind of weapon you used when everything else had failed. "Stay behind the line," Quinn said quietly. "Do not engage unless ordered. If you slow us down, I will leave you behind." Daniel nodded. He didn't trust his voice. The maintenance levels were a maze of pipes and cables and passages never meant for living things. The hunting party moved in formation, weapons ready, scanning for heat signatures and movement. The Devourer had gone deep, into sections of the station that hadn't seen maintenance crews in decades. They found the first body in sub-level 9. A security officer torn apart. The wounds were savage casual. The Devourer hadn't been hunting. It had been angry. "It's injured," Daniel said quietly. Everyone turned to look at him. Quinn's eyes narrowed. "How do you know?" "Blood trail. See how it's erratic? Smeared on the walls. It's favoring its left side. The same side I hit with the beam." Tala clicked forward, examining the blood. "The human is correct. The pattern indicates impaired movement." They pushed deeper. Sub-level 10, 11. The air grew stale, recycled too many times. Emergency lighting cast everything in shades of green. Something dripped in the distance, regular as a heartbeat. The Devourer hit them in sub-level 12. It came from above, dropping through a ventilation shaft nobody had thought to check. The first granite warrior died instantly, the Devourer's claws punching through his stone body like it was clay. The second warrior grabbed the creature, wrestling it, giving the others time to scatter. Energy weapons lit the darkness. The Devourer screamed, that glass-breaking sound that made Daniel's still-healing ribs vibrate with pain. It tore free from the granite warrior, leaving him crumpled and broken, and charged into the hunting party. Chaos. Someone was screaming orders, but the words were lost in weapons fire and alien shrieks. Daniel found himself separated from the group, pressed against a wall as the Devourer tore through trained warriors like they were nothing. Bray, the felinoid, leaped at the creature's back. His claws found purchase, raking deep. The Devourer twisted impossibly fast and caught him mid-leap. The sound of breaking bones. Bray hit the wall and didn't move. Tala darted in too fast to follow, her bladed limbs striking at joints and weak points. The Devourer couldn't catch her, but it didn't need to. It simply thrashed, and one of its limbs caught her across the thorax. Her exoskeleton cracked. She went down. 8 warriors left, then 6, then 4. Quinn fought like something possessed, his plasma rifle cutting deep wounds in the creature's armor. But the Devourer was adapting, learning their patterns. It caught one of Quinn's arms in its jaws and tore it away. The Drillmaster fell, bleeding, his weapon clattering across the metal floor. The Devourer advanced on him. Slow now, taking its time. It had won. The remaining warriors were scattered, broken, or fleeing. This was the kill. The moment of triumph. Daniel stepped between them. He had no weapon. Lost in the chaos. No plan, no hope. Just the absolute certainty that Quinn was not dying here. Not like this. Not while Daniel could still move. The Devourer looked at him. Recognition flickered in those alien eyes. The prey from before, the one that had heard it, that had refused to stay down. "Come on," Daniel said. His voice was steady. "You wanted to finish this. Here I am." The Devourer lunged. Daniel dove under the attack, rolled, came up beside a broken pipe jutting from the wall. He grabbed it, pulled with everything he had. The metal shrieked but held. He pulled harder. Something in his shoulder tore. The pipe came free. The Devourer's claws raked his back. Pain exploded through him. He felt his spine compress, vertebrae grinding. But he was still moving, still fighting. He swung the pipe into the creature's wounded side. Direct hit. The Devourer recoiled and Daniel pressed the attack. Not skilled. Not trained. Just brutal and relentless. The pipe rose and fell. Again. Again. The creature's armor cracked. Green blood sprayed. It hit him. He flew across the room, crashed into Quinn. Both of them went down in a tangle. "Stay down," Quinn gasped. "You've done enough." Daniel couldn't answer. His jaw was broken. His vision was going dark at the edges. But he could still move. Could still push himself up. Could still put his body between the Drillmaster and the monster. The Devourer approached. Limping now, bleeding, but still standing. Still dangerous. It raised a claw for the final strike. Quinn's remaining arm moved, fast, precise. His plasma rifle, retrieved from the floor, fired once. The shot took the Devourer in its damaged side where Daniel's pipe had cracked the armor. The energy burned through, found something vital. The creature stumbled. Fell. Tried to rise and couldn't. Its limbs twitched. Slowed. Stopped. Silence filled the sublevel, broken only by ragged breathing and the drip of blood on metal. Daniel collapsed. Quinn caught him with his remaining arm. Around them the survivors gathered. 4 warriors out of 12, all of them staring at the human who had refused to quit, who had stood between them and death with nothing but a broken pipe and a will that wouldn't bend. "Why?" Quinn asked again. The question that had haunted him since Daniel first arrived. Why do you keep fighting? Daniel's response came out as a whisper. Because someone has to. Medical teams arrived 7 minutes later. By then, Daniel was unconscious, his body finally surrendering to the damage it had endured. Quinn held him the entire time, his yellow eyes never leaving the human's face. Something had broken in the Drillmaster's worldview. Or perhaps something had finally become clear. 3 days passed before Daniel opened his eyes again. The medical bay was quiet except for the hum of regeneration equipment and the soft breathing of other patients. His body felt distant, like it belonged to someone else. The pain was muted, held at bay by drugs and technology, but he could feel it waiting. Rowan sat beside his bed, asleep in the chair. When Daniel moved, his friend jerked awake. "You're an idiot," Rowan said. His eyes were red. A complete idiot. Daniel's throat was too dry to respond. Rowan held up water, helped him drink. The simple act took forever. "They're calling you a hero," Rowan continued. "The civilians you saved, the warriors you fought beside, everyone, even Quinn. Quinn, he's been here. Every day. Just sits and watches. Doesn't say anything. The medical staff says he refused to have his arm regrown until you woke up. Wanted to make sure you'd recover first." Daniel tried to process that, failed. The drugs made thinking difficult. "How many?" he asked. "Dead? 8 from the hunting party. 47 total before we killed it. Could have been hundreds. Would have been if it reached life support." Rowan leaned back. Station commander gave a speech. Said, "We proved that courage isn't about how strong you are. It's about standing up when you're weak." The door opened. Quinn entered, moving carefully. His missing arm ended in a clean stump, wrapped in medical bandages. The Drillmaster's scales looked dull, tired. He stopped when he saw Daniel was awake. "Leave us," Quinn said to Rowan. Rowan hesitated, then nodded and left. The door closed with a soft hiss. Quinn pulled the chair closer. Sat. His yellow eyes studied Daniel's face. "I was wrong," the Drillmaster said quietly. "About humans. About you. About what makes a warrior." Daniel waited. Speaking still hurt too much. "On my world, we measure strength by scales and claws, by how much damage a body can inflict and endure. Warriors are born, not made. You either have the gifts of a fighter or you don't." Quinn's remaining hand clenched into a fist. "I looked at you and saw weakness. Fragile bones, soft skin, a body that breaks easily." "I am weak," Daniel managed. "No." Quinn leaned forward. "You're fragile. There's a difference. I've watched granite warriors flee from danger because they calculated the risk. I've seen felinoids surrender when outnumbered. I've commanded troops who were physically superior in every way, and they broke when the pressure became too great." He gestured at Daniel. "You broke too, bones, ribs, spine, everything, but you didn't stop." "Had to." "Why? Why did you have to?" "The Devourer would have killed you." "Should have killed you. Multiple times. Yet you kept standing, kept fighting, kept putting yourself between it and everyone else." Quinn's voice held something Daniel had never heard before. Not respect, something deeper. "I need to understand." Daniel closed his eyes, tried to find words for something he'd never really questioned. "My species," he said slowly. "We're not special. On Earth we were prey. Everything was faster, stronger, had better weapons built into their bodies. We should have died out. Most species like us did. But you survived. We were too stupid to quit, too stubborn to accept we were beaten." Daniel opened his eyes. "We couldn't outrun predators, so we followed them until they collapsed from exhaustion. We couldn't fight them with claws, so we picked up rocks and sticks. When those weren't enough, we made better rocks, better sticks. We turned our weakness into strategy." "Persistence," Quinn said. "Evolution. The ones who gave up died. The ones who kept going, who pushed through pain and fear and common sense, they survived. They had children, passed on whatever made them too stubborn to quit. For millions of years, that's what we did. We persisted." Quinn was quiet for a long time. "And the Devourer?" "It hurt people under my protection. That made it simple. Simple." Daniel met his eyes. "You taught us that warriors protect their own. The civilians were innocent. The recruits were my classmates. You were my instructor. That made you mine to protect. The Devourer threatened that, so it had to be stopped. Even if stopping it killed you. Especially then." Something passed across Quinn's face. Understanding maybe, or horror. "Humans don't fight because they're strong. You fight because you don't know how to stop. Pretty much. That's terrifying. Daniel laughed. It hurt. We know. Quinn stood, moved to the window. Outside, the station's repair crews worked to fix the damage. Sparks flew in the vacuum, beautiful and deadly. The Academy wants to expel you, he said, for disobeying orders during the evacuation. Daniel's heart sank. I told them no. Quinn turned. I told them that you showed more tactical awareness in that moment than most graduates achieve in their entire careers. You identified a problem, assessed the resources available, and solved it with minimal casualties. That's not disobedience. That's leadership. Thank you, sir. Don't thank me. You'll finish training. It will not be easier. You will still fail more than you succeed. Your body will still be weaker than almost every other recruit. Quinn's expression was unreadable, but you will graduate. I will see to it personally. He moved toward the door, then stopped. When you're recovered, I want you in my unit. After graduation, I'm assembling a team for deep space operations. Dangerous work. High casualties. Most who volunteer don't come back. Why me? Because I've spent 30 years leading warriors who were strong. I want to know what happens when I lead one who's unbreakable. Quinn paused. Think about it, he left. Daniel lay in the medical bed staring at the ceiling. His body hurt. Everything hurt. But for the first time since arriving at the academy, he felt like maybe he belonged. Rowan came back in, carrying food from the commissary. What did he say? He offered me a position. After graduation, are you going to take it? Daniel thought about the Devourer, about standing between it and Quinn, about the moment when his body had been broken and he'd still found a way to keep moving. Yeah, he said, I think I am. Outside the window, the stars burned cold and distant. Somewhere out there, other threats waited, other monsters, other impossible situations. Daniel Reed smiled. Let them come. He was human. He was too stubborn to quit. 2 weeks in medical felt like 2 years. Daniel's body healed with the help of alien technology that would have seemed like magic a century ago. Bones knit back together. Torn muscles regenerated. Nerve damage repaired itself. But the scars remained. Thin white lines across his back and shoulders. Permanent reminders of claws and broken pipes and standing when he should have fallen. The academy had changed when he returned. Recruits who had ignored him before nodded when he passed. Some stepped aside to let him through. Others stared with expressions he couldn't read. Fear, maybe. Or respect. Sometimes both. Tala found him in the corridor on his first day back. Her exoskeleton had been repaired, the cracks sealed with some kind of organic cement. She blocked his path, mandibles clicking in a pattern that his translator interpreted as consideration. You saved my life, she said, in sublevel 12. When the Devourer struck me down, you drew its attention away. I would have died. Anyone would have done the same. No, they wouldn't. Her compound eyes studied him. I mocked you during the first assessment. Called you soft meat behind your back. I was wrong. Among my people, we have a saying. The hardest shell means nothing if the warrior inside is hollow. You have no shell, but you're not hollow. She pressed something into his hand. A small token, carved from her own shed exoskeleton. Carry this. Among the Hive Collective, it marks you as kin. Before Daniel could respond, she was gone. Training resumed, but it was different now. Quinn still pushed him harder than anyone else. Still made him repeat exercises until his muscles screamed. Still paired him against opponents who outmatched him in every physical category. But the mockery was gone, replaced by something more demanding. Higher expectations. Again, Quinn ordered as Daniel failed to complete the climbing wall for the third time. Daniel climbed again, fell again. Again, his hands were bleeding. The other recruits had finished and moved on to the next exercise. Only Daniel remained, failing over and over. Again. He climbed. This time he made it halfway before his grip slipped. Again. Something in Daniel snapped. Not anger. Something colder. He turned to face Quinn. Why? I'm not strong enough. My arms are too short. My grip strength is half what it needs to be. I can train for a year and I'll still fail this wall. Quinn moved closer. You're right. You'll never climb this wall the way a felinoid does. Their claws and muscle structure make it trivial. You'll never match a granite warrior's grip strength. Their bodies are literally made of stone. Then why make me try? Because in combat, the enemy doesn't care about your limitations. They won't lower the wall for you. Won't reduce the gravity. Won't give you an easier path because your species is weaker. Quinn's eyes burned into him. You need to learn that impossible is just a starting point. I don't understand. Watch. Quinn moved to the wall. With one arm still regrowing, he couldn't climb traditionally. Instead, he studied the structure. Found a support beam. Used it to wedge himself up. Found another angle. Used his legs more than his arms. It was slow. Awkward. Nothing like the elegant climbing the able-bodied warriors displayed. But he reached the top. You can't match their strength, Quinn said from above. So cheat. Use tools. Find angles. Make your weakness irrelevant. Daniel looked at the wall with new eyes. There was a drainage pipe running up the side. Not part of the course. Not meant to be used. He grabbed it. Pulled himself up. The pipe groaned but held. He climbed using the pipe as a support, his feet finding purchase on the smallest ledges. It wasn't pretty. It was barely controlled. But he reached the top. Quinn nodded. That's lesson 1. Humans don't fight fair. They can't afford to. The weeks that followed were brutal but different. Quinn began teaching Daniel not to overcome his limitations but to weaponize them. In hand-to-hand combat, his smaller size meant he could slip under the guard of larger opponents. His flexibility, greater than most species, let him escape holds that would trap others. His endurance became a tactical advantage. Wear them down. Make them tired. Then strike. Other instructors took notice. They began incorporating human tactics into their teaching. Asymmetric warfare. Unconventional thinking. Using environment as a weapon. The old ways valued strength and honor. The new ways valued survival and victory. Not everyone approved. A felinoid named Grath cornered Daniel in the barracks one evening. He was twice Daniel's size, all muscle and predatory grace. You're corrupting the academy, Grath growled. Making it weak. Teaching warriors to fight without honor. Daniel set down his equipment. Honor doesn't matter if you're dead. Spoken like prey. Yeah. Prey that survived when all the predators died out. Daniel met his eyes. You want to challenge me? Fine, but know this. I will lose. I'm weaker than you in every way. But I'll make you work for it. I'll make you hurt. And when we're done, you'll remember exactly how much damage prey can do. Grath studied him for a long moment. Then surprisingly, he laughed. Maybe Quinn is right about you. He extended a claw. Train me. Show me these human tactics, and Daniel did. It became a regular thing. After hours, recruits who wanted to learn would find him. He taught them what Quinn taught him. How to turn disadvantage into strategy. How to think 3 moves ahead. How to survive when surviving should be impossible. Tala was there. So was Bray, recovered from his injuries. Even one of the granite warriors showed up, curious about the prey animal who wouldn't quit. Rowan watched from the doorway one night, shaking his head. You're building an army. I'm making friends. It's the same thing, maybe it was. Daniel didn't mind. These weren't just aliens anymore. They were classmates, comrades, people who had bled beside him, who had seen him at his worst and decided he was worth knowing. Quinn observed from a distance, never commenting, but Daniel caught him watching. The Drillmaster's expression was complex. Pride maybe, or concern, or both. The final assessment was approaching. 6 months of training condensed into one brutal test. Most recruits would fail. Some would be injured. A few might die. The academy didn't believe in easy graduations. Daniel trained harder, pushed himself beyond what his body should endure, fell asleep studying tactics, woke up running drills. His hands were perpetually wrapped in bandages. His muscles were maps of bruises, but he was ready, or as ready as a human could be. The night before the assessment, Quinn found him alone in the training hall. Nervous? The Drillmaster asked. Terrified. Good. Fear means you understand what's at stake. Quinn sat beside him. Tomorrow you'll face challenges designed to break you. Most of your classmates have genetic advantages. Superior reflexes. Enhanced strength. Natural armor. You have none of these. I know. But you have something they lack. Something I didn't understand when you first arrived. Quinn's voice was quiet. You have the certainty that failure is not an option. Not because you can't fail, but because you won't allow it. Daniel looked at him. Is that enough? Tomorrow, Quinn said, we'll find out. Dawn broke over Station Ethan in shades of artificial light. The final assessment began at 0600 hours, no delays, no exceptions. Daniel stood with the remaining recruits in the assembly hall. 60 had started. 37 remained. Not all the losses were from quitting. Some were injuries. 2 were deaths, training accidents that the Academy marked as acceptable casualties. The assessment had 3 stages: survival, combat, leadership, each designed to push recruits beyond their limits, each with a failure rate above 50%. Stage 1 sent them into the deep wilderness of a simulated death world. Gravity twice Earth normal. Atmosphere thin enough to make breathing difficult. Predators designed by military AI to be as lethal as possible. Survive for 72 hours. Reach the extraction point. Simple in theory. In practice, recruits died here regularly enough that medical teams stood ready with body bags. Daniel barely survived the first day. The gravity crushed him. Every step was agony. The thin air left him gasping. He watched a felinoid take down a predator with ease while he struggled to walk. But he kept moving. When night fell and the temperature dropped, he built shelter while others relied on their natural resistances. When predators came, he hid while others fought. It wasn't glorious, but when 72 hours ended, he was at the extraction point. 14 recruits didn't make it. Most were pulled out by safety teams. 3 died. 1 was a granite warrior who had mocked Daniel on the first day. He'd been overconfident, tried to fight a pack of predators alone. They'd worn him down. Even stone breaks eventually. Stage 2 was combat, not simulation. Not practice, real fights against real opponents. The Academy had prisoners from various conflicts, criminals facing death sentences, willing to fight recruits for a chance at freedom. Win, and they could walk away. Lose, and they faced execution anyway. Daniel drew a saurid pirate, bigger than Quinn, scarred. Eyes that had seen real war. The kind of opponent who made Daniel's training partners look gentle. The fight was brief and brutal. The pirate was faster, stronger, more experienced. He broke 2 of Daniel's ribs in the opening exchange. Dislocated his shoulder with a casual backhand. Should have ended it there. But Daniel had learned, had adapted. He used the arena, found a weapon in the debris, made the fight dirty. When the pirate closed for a kill strike, Daniel drove a piece of broken metal into the gap between his scales. Not honorable, not clean, but effective. The pirate fell. Daniel stood over him, bleeding, barely conscious. Prey animal, the pirate laughed, green blood bubbling from his mouth. You fight like prey. Yeah, Daniel said. Prey that kills the predator. Stage 3 was leadership. Take a squad of recruits. Complete an objective under fire. Keep them alive. Keep them moving. Show tactical awareness and decision-making under pressure. Daniel's squad was assigned to rescue a VIP from a hostile compound. The compound was defended by automated systems and combat drones. His squad consisted of 4 recruits, Tala, Bray, Grath, and a granite warrior named Stone who'd trained with Daniel after the Devourer incident. Plan? Tala asked. Daniel studied the compound. We're not strong enough for a frontal assault. We go quiet. Disable their sensors. Get in, get the VIP, get out before they know we're there. That's a prey animal's plan, Grath said, but he was smiling. Let's do it. They moved like shadows. Tala took out sensors with precision strikes. Bray scouted ahead with his natural stealth. Stone provided mobile cover. Daniel coordinated, keeping them synchronized. When they reached the VIP, guards were waiting. The ambush should have killed them, should have ended the assessment in failure and blood. Instead, Daniel adapted, used the environment, collapsed a support beam that created chaos, sent Tala through the confusion to extract the VIP. Held the line with Stone while Bray and Grath cleared the exit. It wasn't pretty. Stone took damage that would have killed anything organic. Daniel was shot twice, but they completed the objective. All 5 recruits extracted successfully. The VIP was safe. Mission complete. The scores were posted that evening. Daniel placed in the middle, not top, not bottom, average, but he'd passed. He'd survived. He'd become what he'd come here to be. Graduation ceremony was simple. Station commander presented certificates, said words about duty and honor and sacrifice, called each graduate forward. When Daniel's name was announced, something unexpected happened. The other graduates stood. All of them. Tala clicked her mandibles in respect. Bray gave a slow nod. Stone, massive and unmoving, inclined his head. Grath and others Daniel had trained with placed fists over their hearts in salute. Then Quinn stepped forward. He moved to the center of the hall and every conversation died. The Drillmaster, who had mocked the human on his first day, who had called him prey, who had expected him to quit within a week, stood before Daniel Reed, and then Quinn knelt, the sordid gesture of deepest respect, reserved for honored elders, war heroes, those who had earned recognition beyond simple achievement. Never given lightly, never given to recruits. I was wrong, Quinn said, his voice carrying through the silent hall. I judged you by your body, by your limitations, by what you couldn't do. He looked up, yellow eyes meeting Daniel's. I should have judged you by your spirit, by your refusal to break, by what you wouldn't stop doing. He stood, placed both hands on Daniel's shoulders. One hand was still slightly smaller than the other, the regrown arm not quite matching the original. You are not strong, Quinn said. You are not fast. Your body is weak compared to almost every species here. He paused. But you are unbreakable, and that makes you the most dangerous warrior I have ever trained. The hall erupted, not in applause, in a battle cry, the sound of warriors recognizing one of their own. Species that should never have agreed on anything unified in this moment, honoring the human who had refused to quit. Later in the barracks, Daniel found Rowan packing. His friend had passed too, barely, but he'd made it. Command assignment, Rowan said. Desk work safe, comfortable, what about you? Quinn's unit. Deep space operations. Dangerous work. Yeah. Could die. Probably will. Rowan laughed. Of course you're going. Can't resist the impossible odds. It's what I'm good at. They shook hands, then awkwardly hugged. Brothers who had survived something few could understand. Daniel reported to Quinn's ship 3 days later. The Drillmaster was waiting at the airlock, fully healed now, both arms functional. Ready? Quinn asked. Daniel looked back at Station Ethon. At the place where he'd been mocked, broken, rebuilt, where he'd discovered that being human meant something more than he'd ever understood. Ready, he said. They stepped through the airlock together, the prey animal and the predator, the monster who had learned to kneel and the human who had taught him why. Behind them, the stars burned cold and infinite. Ahead, dangers waited that would make the devourer look merciful. But Daniel Reed was human. He was fragile, weak, breakable in 1,000 ways. He was also the one thing that had survived when everything stronger had failed. He would keep standing, keep fighting, keep refusing to quit, because that's what humans do. And the galaxy was about to learn exactly what that meant.